Sunday GUNDAY. What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things. I've read your comments, I heard you loud and clear, so today we're finally taking a look at the CZ P-10C. Before we get into this, I need to give a quick shout out to Panda Tactical for sending me both ammo and the gun for this review. If you're ever looking for a gun, one that might be kind of hard to find like this guy is right now, go down to their site in the description. I'll also leave their email. Hit them up, let them know what you're looking for, and there's a really good chance that they're going to be able to find it. Now, you guys have been bugging the hell out of me to do a video on this, so let's get into it. The CZ P-10C. What can I really say about this gun? It's a striker-fired, double-stack, 9mm. CZ is primarily known for making hammer-fired guns, and really nice hammer-fired guns for that matter. So the P-10 is their first shot at getting into the polymer market. I haven't even shot this gun yet, but just holding it in my hand, I think they got something good going on here. Let's be honest, the main competitor of this gun is the Glock 19, so starting from the top down, they've already done a little bit better with these sights. Metal sights, both front and rear, whereas Glock normally comes with plastic sights. The slide has really effective serrations, they're nice and sharp, and they put them on the front of the slide. Big plus in my opinion. On the frame, this whole gun is ambidextrous, so you'll find a slide stop on each side as well as a magazine release. Some nice stippling down the grip, very reminiscent of a Gen 4 Glock. It comes with different size back straps so you can swap out to fit your hand a little bit better. And on the bottom, there's a little bit of a flare on the magazine well, and the back strap comes down all the way, so when you have a mag inserted, it kind of cleans up the look of the entire gun. Looks wise, I have to be honest, I think this gun looks really good. In my hand, everything feels great as well. Slide manipulation, super easy. The real question is now, how does this thing shoot? Let's find out. Alright, first mag impression, I can definitely tell where all the hype behind this gun is coming from. If a gun just feels right in your hand, it points naturally and everything, chances are you're going to be able to shoot it really well. I actually knocked over one of my targets, it wasn't sitting on level ground. So the first thing that I noticed right after the first shot is that it's very smooth. I don't know why, but I guess I was just expecting a little bit more recoil because of the looks of this slide. The gun itself though is pretty light, and when you do have a really good grip on it, tends to help it shoot a little bit flatter. Now, I wouldn't say the bore axis on this is low, but I think it might be a little bit lower than a Glock. I can definitely get my hand up in there a little bit better without worrying about slide bite. The serrations are really nice. They're cut in at a 90-degree angle, but they are really sharp. After repeated use of this over and over again, I could see it kind of ripping the skin off your hands, but I personally like really aggressive serrations like that. The grip also feels really good in my hand. I'm using the regular back strap that it ships with. And the same things that I said about the serrations kind of go for the texturing on the grip as well. It's a bunch of the little square patterning like you would find on a Gen 4 Glock, but the way they're angled, it makes them really sharp, at least on both the front and the back. Aggressive, but not overly aggressive in the areas where you might find some hot spots. Another thing to mention, metal magazines. I'm definitely a fan of that. Orange followers, fan of that as well. The mag release feels really positive. With the metal mags, they kind of slide out easier than a Glock mag would. And then there's the trigger. That's what everyone rants and raves about this gun. For CZ's first attempt at a polymer handgun, this trigger is pretty damn good. Typical trigger safety like you'll find on a lot of polymer guns. It's not gritty, not very mushy. I go right back to the wall. Once at the wall, I'd say it's maybe, I don't know. The trigger on this feels pretty light. Definitely lighter than the Gen 5 Glocks. I don't have a gauge and my finger isn't robotic, but I would say it feels almost like a 4.5 pound trigger? 5 pound maybe? I don't know. It's nice though, that's what I'm getting at. And then there's the reset. Audible and tactile, and you might have noticed there it didn't really travel out that far. So I'm right at the wall again. Same pretty light feeling trigger pull. So I'm already liking this gun a lot. I really don't have anything bad to say about it right now. But what I really want to find out about this gun in the end is that would this replace my everyday carry Glock 19? That's such a hard question to me right now, so I'm gonna go shoot it some more and then I'll come back with my final thoughts. Didn't lock back that time. It's the second time it didn't lock back now. Let's see how good this trigger really is. Second shot, not bad. Alright, time for my final thoughts on the CZ P-10C. I have something else planned at the end of this video, so don't click away just yet. Let's start off with that problem I was having. The gun wouldn't lock back on the last shot, and that was simply just because of myself. While the gun does feel really good in my hand, if you're holding a pistol properly, my thumb is riding right on top of the slide catch. On Glocks, I never really had that problem before. This isn't the most positive release in the world, but it's just enough that when my thumb's on top of it, it prevents it from locking back. Once I realized that's what was going on, I adjusted my thumb out to the side a little bit, and it worked just fine. Not the pistol's fault at all, it's just the size of my hands. Another thing that I noticed that I didn't even really realize is that these are actually night sights. When I was reholstering, I'm obviously looking the gun barrel down into the bottom of the holster, and I saw that the front post was actually glowing, so that's a nice added feature. Now, shooting wise, I shot this gun pretty damn well for myself. It's not every day that you pick a gun stock right out of the box, and you start shooting proficiently right from the get-go. This thing is obviously really reminiscent of a Glock, so it kind of transfers over. The trigger on this thing is really where the gun shines. The take-up is really smooth, and the gun is brand new, so I can only imagine that it would get smoother in time. The brake is crisp and predictable, and then the reset, it just feels really familiar to me. As you saw, even out at about 100 yards there, I really had no problem hitting steel. I'm actually a pretty big fan of this grip texturing. Like I said, it's aggressive where it matters. In both the front and rear, it has the sharp boxes, but on the side, it's a little bit smoother. So when this thing is holstered, the grip is obviously rubbing up against my stomach right now, and it's not very uncomfortable. I wouldn't say it's the most comfortable thing in the world, but for carrying a gun this size, I think I could live with that. I might as well show you guys the internals on this thing as well. Takedown is the same as a Glock. You just pull the trigger, pull the little tabs down, and it comes right apart. The internals, as you can see, are a bit different than a Glock. It's basically like a Gen 3 recoil spring. And then on the frame, it's really similar to the Gen 5s with the ambidextrous controls. One thing that's different where the slide catches on the side of the slide on the Glock, this actually catches right in the middle. I know that's probably a little difficult to see there, but basically it comes up and catches right here on the inside of the slide. It looks like the trigger bar and connector also run on both sides of the gun, so that's pretty interesting as well. So overall, it's a really good package. I'm actually pretty impressed with CZ's first time at making a striker-fired polymer handgun like this. It's pretty impressive that they got it right directly from the start, but I guess that's what you can expect out of a brand like CZ. Now to the main question of this video. Would the CZ P-10C replace my everyday carry Glock 19? This thing is very comparable to a Gen 5 Glock 19, so Panda Tactical also sent out a Gen 5 Glock 19 for this video. Now let's talk about this for a second. I did a video on the Gen 5 17. If you want to check that out, you can click the link right up here. This thing is basically identical to that, so do I still have the same issues with the Gen 5 19 as I did the 17? For starters, aesthetically speaking, the frame does not line up with the top of the slide. It's not as noticeable on the 19, but again, it's just cosmetic. It doesn't bother me that much. It's just kind of annoying. Then there's that frame bulge that I talked about. It's gonna be hard to tell on video like it was in the last one. The frame bulge is still there. I don't think it's as noticeable on the 19, but it's there. Again, is that gonna cause an issue? Probably not, but it's just something that's a gun shouldn't do in my opinion. Then there's the cutout down here on the magazine. I thought that might bother my pinky with a shorter grip of the 19 like this, but it doesn't seem to bother me that much. Then there's the trigger on this thing. I do like how there are no serrations like there were on some previous models. The little serrations that you might find on the trigger shoe on a Gen 3 or Gen 4 kind of bother my finger after shooting it for a while. So I do like that they got rid of that. They also claim that this trigger is a little bit better, but it might feel a little bit smoother than the previous generations, but I mean, it's a Glock trigger. It feels pretty much the same as they all do. So now the reason that I'm even asking this question in the first place. 2018 is coming up real soon. One of my plans for the upcoming year is to do a lot more handgun training, take classes wherever I can, and just spend more time shooting if possible. One of the things that goes hand in hand with that is that I want to be proficient with a completely stock gun. Stock frame, stock slide, stock barrel, even stock sights. These are the plastic Glock sights, by the way. I obviously really like customizing guns and everything, but if you're not proficient with just a regular stock gun, what's the point of doing those customizations in the first place? So I would definitely say that I'm proficient with stock handguns, but I actually don't own any completely stock guns that I would like to carry. So I've got a lot of training coming up on the horizon. Which double stack handgun am I gonna pick? I think I'm actually gonna have to shoot this Gen 5 19 before I can really make my decision. Alright, that was just a quick 50 rounds through the Gen 5 19. Only 50 rounds because it just feels so familiar to me. One thing that shooting the 19 did though is it might have changed my opinion on the Gen 5. Specifically the trigger. I don't know if it's like a placebo effect because I like the 19 over the 17, but this trigger feels smoother than the other one that I shot. If I shot this right next to a Gen 3 or Gen 4 trigger, I think that I would actually be able to tell the difference. I definitely prefer the Gen 5 19 over the 17, but still, is it worth that extra cost? Whereas you can get a Gen 4 maybe like $100 cheaper? That's really personal preference. If you think the better barrel and trigger are gonna help you shoot better, then yeah, maybe it is worth it. The reason why I think I could actually justify buying a Gen 5 19 is because those little upgrades would be worth it to me if I'm keeping this gun completely stock. And then again, back to the main question on the table. If I were to buy this gun or the CZ P-10C, I would be keeping it stock. One quick side note here. QVO Tactical Wingman Holster, CZ P-10C. This is molded for a Glock 19. I molded it with a Gen 3, but it obviously fits a Gen 4, a Gen 5, and the CZ P-10C. I believe that they even market that on their website, that you can interchange holsters and everything, so that's kind of cool. Now, comparing these guns side by side, as you can see, the P-10C is a little bit bigger in every regards. The grip is a little bit longer, the slide and barrel stick out a little bit more than the Gen 5. One thing that I noticed too is that the Glock is definitely more comfortable to carry for me. This has front serrations, which I like, however this doesn't. This has a nice trigger. I like the metal mags. I like how it feels in my hand. I really don't have anything bad to say about this gun, but I don't think it's gonna beat the feeling of me shooting a Glock. I have a lot more hours spent rounds down range with the Glock platform, so it's kind of like riding a bike. I'll pick up any Glock, it's really familiar, and I'll shoot it pretty much the same every single time. Granted, if I get more trigger time, more rounds down range with the CZ, I could probably shoot it just as well. I think this gun actually looks a lot better than the Glocks do, but in the end it really comes down to function. It's such a hard decision. I really don't want to buy both because there's no reason for me to have both of these guns when they're so similar. So now I guess I'll ask you, what do you guys think I should do? Obviously your opinions aren't going to affect my buying decision because everyone is a little bit different, but if you've shot both of these guns and you could only have one in its stock form, I'm wondering which one would you guys choose? I guess I'll have to make my decision and then send one of these back to Panda Tactical where you guys can go and buy it yourself. So that's gonna be all for today. I hope everyone has a happy holiday and you get to spend it with your family and friends. A cool Christmas present that you guys could leave me would be a like on this video, or if you're new to this channel, consider clicking subscribe because I make new videos every week. That's all for today. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.